who said, oh, she's in Jaws, this and this and this are very cheap in Jaws. And so I said, okay, why don't we coordinate and ensure that people can buy things in bulk within the group? And, that was how mainland Lagos was formed, island Lagos was formed, Abuja was formed, Ojodubega was, I think, about 4 different groups. And then they went in, we appointed leaders, they went into their various groups, and now they are putting their money together to get things in bulk, and then ship into Lagos, and then they will distribute amongst themselves, right? And, as it was going on, I just realized, what we always emphasize is that we are saviors, and we create solutions for our world. So someone reached out to me and was like, Praise, what drives you? How were you able to quickly organize the people? And look at how you solve the problem, And she said, one thing I've noticed about you is that you don't quote so many scriptures, but I see a lot of practical Christianity, So I read, so another person reached out to me. So I sent a scripture to her as well, because she was speaking along the same line. James chapter 2, I think, there's a verse there that says, if you see a brother who says he's hungry, and you say to the brother, you put your hand on his tummy and you say, be filled in Jesus' name. The writer of James now said, God talk without God deeds is outrageous nonsense. That's the Message translation. God talk without God deed is outrageous nonsense. That if we talk and talk and talk and talk, and we don't do, we just deceive ourselves, right? That our spirituality is not measured again by how much. There's so much constipation of revelation in Nigeria. I am even tired. So many speakers, counter preachers all over Nigeria, and I pity the people, right? The least anybody should do right now, in any religious house, is at least to organize a soup kitchen where after service everybody can eat, the people who can afford to eat. That's the least we can do in this period of time, right? It's a time to give back to the people, and whatever we can do to support, and people can collaborate. I think that God is actually in the midst of some of the things happening, because we are now forced to collaborate, which is what we've always talked about. So thank you, everyone in House of Saviors who the people in that group who have volunteered to coordinate. Thank you very much, my sister Buki George. I can see you. I'm in the island group. Super duper deal. Yeah, we need to all support ourselves. There is no big man in this economy, in Nigerian economy right now. So we all need to come together, collaborate. The strong can support the weak, and we can also support our Ubuntu. I am because you are. So I just thought to share that, because that stood out for me yesterday. I was in like 4 classes yesterday, so I finished pretty late. I just barely finished enough to reflect on the event that happened in the day. So I said I will share with us. So let's collaborate. Reach out to someone around you, find out how they're doing, and so I pray God will help us. I know that tough times don't last, tough people do. Sharpen your sickle, find a way to earn globally, especially in Forex, and let's see, where this serious season takes us to. We're eagles, and eagles will surrender itself to the storm, but when the storm is over, it'll soar to an altitude that it didn't have capacity to soar to. I know that politicians won't break us, right? And they won't kill us, right? We are built to try, and we will try. So on that note, I'm going to welcome our lecturer, our teacher, our business coach, Fisayo Okusanya, back to continue from where he stopped last week. FO, you're welcome, sir. Over to you.
Good afternoon, PF. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. It's always such a pleasure to be here. I want to say a few things about, I'm a bit, just in case you find me passionate, I'm a bit upset with the way things are. And the fact that we claim to know what we do not know is very painful. People feel that there is a lot of revelation in the church in Nigeria, but there's no revelation. And I'm serious. What people just know is doctrine. And a lot of people go on that route. But the truth of the matter is that revelation is spiritual understanding of the truth regarding any subject matter. That's the definition of revelation. Spiritual understanding of the truth regarding any subject matter. The minute your revelation is about something is truly complete, you are free in that area of your life. It's not possible to have revelation and to be bound. You know why? Because the word of God is quick. It's not you that is quick. And I want you to understand this. You are not the one that is quick. That word is power in itself, right? What it does is that it sets you on your feet and shows you what to do. And I said this last time, and I'll say it again, that any revelation you have that does not set you on your feet to do has a low sperm count, which means that it can only excite, it cannot impregnate. And this is very serious stuff I'm talking about. If you claim to have revelation and you have not been set on your feet, say the Spirit entered into me when he spoke to me and set me on my feet. There is an action element to revelation that you have no choice in the matter. And I will explain what I'm saying. That you have no choice in the matter. Once it enters into you, you have no choice in the matter. What is happening is that churches are copying each other and putting up shows. And let's begin to say it, because we have gotten to a point where there's fire on the mountain, right? And people are copying each other and copying a model that works here and seems to work here, and then there's no revelation. So let's talk a bit about wealth, and let's talk a bit about what is taught and what should be taught, right? So I'll say a few things, and I will just say it. I may not talk for too long, but I'll just say, the things that and I pray that you hear, and I pray that you get understanding. The first thing I'll say is that truth is received in its living form when the soul requires it. Now, I will unpack this statement so that you understand it. It is not possible to receive truth in its living form or in its revelation form until your soul requires it, which means that you can only receive answers at the level at which you are asking questions. That is why I always say that God only speaks to thinking men. So he says, while he yet thought, the Holy Ghost spoke to him. That's the frame that the Bible presents. While he yet thought, the Holy Ghost spoke to him. God only speaks to thinking men. That's why truth is only received in its living form when the soul requires it. Let's unpack it further. If you are going through something difficult, right, and your response to darkness is to seek out the light, more often than not, you are likely to find light. If your response to darkness is to avoid darkness, more often than not, you are likely not to find light. If your soul requires light and you seek after the truth, there's a way the understanding of the truth hits you, that when it hits you, you know that you can never go back, which is why day is for speaking, night shows knowledge. Psalm 19, day unto day uttered speech, night shows knowledge. Night is for knowledge. It's at night we know who has light. Do you hear what I'm saying? Right? So this darkness is not anybody's fault, but our fault. You know why? Because our light is so dim that it needs to be so dark for us to shine a little. In an age where people are using floodlights and they're using all these lights, we are using candle. And the night needs to be so dark just for us to shine a little. But it says darkness shall cover the people, gross darkness. Right? So in darkness, the reason why we are in darkness like this is because we are all using candle. Our light, what am I saying? Atupa. Our light is so dim that it cannot shine. It cannot even lighten a house, not to talk of an estate. I don't want you to think about it. And I want you to get angry. And that anger, right, must power you into effectual fervent prayer, which must power you into action. We need to stop playing games, you know. We need to stop playing games and stop making a fool of ourselves and the revelation that we have. Don't call it revelation if it cannot lead to action. If it can excite, right? If it can excite and it cannot impregnate, there's something wrong with the sperm count. It's not enough, right? So I'm going to talk about a few things. So we start talking about we start to allude to wealth and the soul, right? And so the idea is that the soul is the seat of knowledge, information, all the revelation you receive it sits in your soul as what is called your worldview. It sits in your soul as what is called your worldview. Your worldview is a perception or your perception of how things get done in the world, right? Your worldview is your perception of how things get done in the world, which means that if you feel that this is the way things get done in the world, this is where results are gotten, and you have not, I mean, we are just stubborn. We have felt this way for decades. We have not gotten results this way, and we have continued this way with a faulty worldview, and we have continued with the faulty worldview. So someone was saying the other day about having faith, and this is the most bastardized and abused concept in the Christian or in the religious circles, having faith. It does not make sense to me when people say, oh, just have faith. I'll give you an example, you know, because honesty is what is required. And I think that's what we need to come to Jesus moment where we all are honest to ourselves. And we say, look, this thing has not worked. Let us search out the truth on this matter. And individually and collectively, as a human being, you need to come to that, until you come to that position, you know. So when God wanted to start teaching me about wealth, the first thing I saw was Amos. Out of the families of the earth, you have I known, right? So God says, I put you in families, right? First thing, families, networks, tribes, right? Because that's the key to wealth, families. I said last week, wealth cannot be created. God has created everything. Wealth is inherited or passed down between families. Not necessarily biological families, because some people always now get stuck on their biological family. But Jesus defined it for us. And there's nothing wrong with the biological family, but Jesus defined it. When they came to him and said, your mother and your brothers are here. He said, who? He said, those that are in my neighborhood, those that are here, that are processing the same things, that are my mother and my brothers. And that's such a deep statement. I have a mentor who was stuck on family to the extent that his family finished him, and he ended up having a stroke and, you know, just being a shadow of himself because he did not understand the definition of family. And the definition of family, like I said earlier, is that in your journey through life, God will send you siblings. Those siblings are the key to your wealth. Whether they stay in your life or not depends on your behavior. If you are badly behaved, they will leave. If you are well behaved, they will stay. Some of you have chased your siblings away with bad behavior. You hear them say, oh, am I feeding him? You should get out. Some of you have chased your siblings away with bad behavior. And you need to go back to point zero, which is the point of origin, or else you will never make it. And this is where it says your soul prospers. So soul is the seat of the intellect and the emotions. So you are good at what you do. You are intellectual. You are capable, but your bad behavior has chased your siblings away. The people that will hear what you have to do and take it to a position of higher authority have been chased away, right? You don't face it. And so there's a balance with wealth in the world, right? So there are a few things I want to say now. And I wrote them down, so I'm going to just read some of them and say them. Now, the soul's journey to prosperity is not really about the prosperity itself. It's about what you become on the journey, right? Listen to this, very important. Your journey to prosperity is not about what you get. It's about who you become, right? And that is why God will take you through the route that he needs to take you, because he sees the end from the beginning. Now, how does this work? You need to be flexible, first of all. and tell yourself that it's not really about making money or doing this or becoming this. I have a friend who determined that he must go to this particular music school in his life. And 20 years down the line, he hasn't gotten admission into that school and is stuck on the idea of going to the music school, right? Because it's not flexible, right? If you get flexible, you will first of all find that the industries that will thrive in the next 20 years do not exist now. The industries that will create billionaires in the next 20 years do not exist now. If they do not exist now, it means that you need to be flexible and be sensitive. So during the week, I had to go to Abuja for a client. I'll say the name of the client because I want to make a point. My client is Julius Berger. We all know Julius Berger. They build bridges in Nigeria, right? At least that's what we think. So I said to my client, what do you guys want now? I'm not an engineer, I'm not in construction. They said they're diversifying into healthcare. Oh my God. So Julius Berger said they're diversifying into healthcare, that they want to build a cancer center. I said, do you want to build a cancer center for your staff, me? Or what are you saying exactly? So given the macroeconomic headwinds of Nigeria, Julius Berger first made one decision that we are dying in this market. We're not leaving. That's the first decision. We're not leaving. The second decision is that there are other ways to make money apart from building bridges. So Julius Berger is going into healthcare, one. So as we sat down, I said, okay, what do you have in mind? And I want you to follow me and listen carefully because we are not serious. Until we get serious, we might not be able to have a seat on the table. Listen to me and write this down. If you are not on the table, you are on the menu. If you are not seated at the table, you are on the menu. I'll say it one more time. If you are not on the table, you are on the menu. So I sat down with the guys in Julius Berger and they said, okay, so as we're about to start discussing, okay, what's the clinical goals of this hospital? Let's talk about functional planning, space planning. They served me cashew. This is where my mind was about to, what, cashew? I saw the cashew. Cashew, you don't care. Kí ló ń ṣẹlẹ̀? Can you see my camera? I took a copy of the cashew. PF, where are you? Come and see something. Come and see something, PF. Cashew. Eh? Who can see this cashew for me and read it? I want someone to unmute and read this for me. So it's not just me.
Mighty cashew. Mighty cashew.
Mighty cashew, right? You can see it.
Yeah.
Can you read what's here?
Yes, proudly. You have to move it a bit. Okay, proudly produced and packaged in Nigeria.
In Nigeria.
Processed and packaged in Nigeria.
Continue reading.
No, I can't see
the small print.
It's not very clear.
You have
Who
to
can
bring
see
it? Ingredients: cashew, kernel, salt, contains.
Contains. Can you see?
No, I can't see.
Julius Berger Nigeria PLC.
Julius Berger Nigeria PLC, yeah.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Yes.
Julius Berger is making cashew. You are there saying that you must be doing, it's only this one you can do. So when I was eating the sweet cashew now, they said 99% of the cashew is being exported. You know, you just have to tell yourself the truth. There's something we don't know. That's why we are in this position. And there's something we must know. Do you hear me? Julius Berger is exporting cashew because they do work for federal government, and federal government is owing. So they have found alternative ways. Listen, sometimes you need to change what you are doing. Sometimes you need to change who you are doing it for. In this game of wealth, sometimes you need to change what you are doing, but it comes with just flexibility and understanding the macroeconomic environment and just chill. Chill with this, I know everything. We have all the revelation. We are here. You don't know. There's a second leg to any recession, and that's the second. Thank God FFL is here. Every account, you debit one, you credit the other. As you are seeing debit, there's somebody being credited. It's accounting. There's a credit. Ask yourself, where is the credit going in the economy right now? Do you understand? And that's why it's not just about competence. It's also about relationships. Some of you will sit down in places and you will hear it. And then I saw, and we need to not be arrogant. A pastor got appointed to by Lagos State for this palliative board. And someone said it on that if I were him, I would reject it. Why? Why are Christians like this? If you reject it, then what's the hope? If you reject it, then what is the hope? So we keep doing that thing, not understanding the difference between holiness and righteousness. That holiness is being separated, righteousness is being aligned. Thank you. Somebody said the global market demand for cashew is $8 billion. Holiness is being separated, righteousness is alignment. And that alignment with God is what determines where you are going. So I want to start on the issue of faith, and I want to bring out something clearly here. From Hebrews 11. And I'll close there because I know I've said a lot, but I want you to think about it. Now, because next week I'm going to expose on this, expound on it, and tell you how God has blessed me. Right? Tell you how God has blessed me using these principles into a net worth in 6, 7, 8 figures. Right? Now, the concept of faith, because I hear people say it a lot, let's have faith. As if faith is something that's not tangible, as if faith is just believing, right? And I said to someone, even still today, I said, faith is not believing that God can do it, because the devils believe. They even take it a step further and they tremble. So if I ask you if you have faith and you say you believe that God can do it, you're not serious. You're not serious about it at all, and you're not going to get it. Now, faith is a life force and faith is a lifestyle. Two things, life force, lifestyle, right? Now, Hebrews 11 says that by faith, we understand that the elders obtained a good report. Now, I want to set a parallel. I'm not just quoting the Bible. I want you to set a parallel in your mind. It's my worldview about how things get done, and it has been proven right over and over again, right? So it says, we understand that the elders obtained a good report. Now, that word report means witness, because witness, like a witness in court. So they obtain good witnesses. Now, because, and if there's any lawyer here, you follow me with this train of thought, and we can even talk about it after. And I want you to please listen. I will teach it again and again until you get it, but please listen, because I'm committed to getting this out. And this is how you get these things into your life. This is how you get these things into your life. The other option, which is why I say without faith it's impossible to please God. The other option is corruption. The other option is corruption. And that's why people steal. This option is legitimate wealth creation or wealth inheritance. Now, listen. Paul set the discussion of faith in a courtroom because it's a legal discussion. I want you to listen. It's a legal discussion that has to do with the laws of a land. And the only way to understand it is to understand the legal terrain. In fact, in studying faith, some people have had to study the law of contracts, law of tort, to understand what Paul was actually saying about faith. Right? It's the same way we are taking territories, all those things. is territory. What does it mean? So it's a faith. And if I read Hebrews 1 to 11 for you, 1 to 14, you will see legal terms, at least 10 legal terms in those 14 verses. At the very least 10. From witness to evidence to jurisdiction to possession to ownership. You will see him allude to those things, and those things are only in law. Why? Because the physical and the spiritual realm work in a legal fashion. And while you are there, listen, thinking it is not fair, this is not how things work. Or you're saying to yourself, it is not fair. And the terrain is telling you that nobody cares about fair. It is not how things work. Things work by certain laws and rules. Exact laws that regardless of who is working them, they will produce the same result. Do you hear what I'm saying? You say it is not fair. The world says we don't care. So leave that entitlement, because in the journey of wealth, the first thing you need to discard is entitlement. The journey of wealth, the first thing you need to discard is entitlement. Nobody owes you anything. If you don't know the law, the ignorance of the law is not an acceptable excuse. So PF shared about fairness. Yes, because it's a law. I mean, I wasn't here doing Illuminati, but I'm telling you that it's the same principle. That's why PF will share about it. It's the same principle. You're saying it's not fair, but nobody cares, because that's not how things work. If you follow the law, you will get the results. If you don't follow the law, you won't get the results. So what is the law? And that's what I want to share with you, right? Follow the law, you will get results. Don't follow the law, you will not get results, right? So Paul was hinting us. He was hinting us that you are in a legal environment now. You're in a legal environment now. Everything you do must be according to the legal environment, right? If you don't follow the law of the legal environment, you're going to end up hungry, right? Wicked men will oppress you. You will have no power. Your hands will be weak. When wicked men oppress you, you will say it's not fair, it's not fair. Oh God, you will cry, but they will oppress you. Why? Because the heavens belong to the highest bidder. Wicked or not. Listen to me. Now, first law of faith says the substance of things hoped for. There, in that word substance, it talked about three things. Jurisdiction, I talked about that last week. Possession and ownership, right? So we agreed last week that if you are here, you have not registered your business in the territory which you operate, you are not serious. That's the first thing. Now, it's not just your business. I want to go as far as say your trademark. Some of you have ideas, trademarks, that you have not registered. Go and register your trademark. Because ideas don't have jurisdiction on the earth. You need to breathe into it until it has a body. You do not leave it until it has a body. You don't release it until it has a body. Anything that doesn't have a body is not allowed to operate on the earth. Law. Now, number 2, he said by it, the elders obtained a good report or a good witness. Then hear what he said about Abel. He said by faith, Abel offered up a more excellent sacrifice than Cain. Follow me closely. Abel offered up a more excellent sacrifice than Cain. By which, describing that sacrifice, he said, by which he obtained a witness. The word witness shows up again. Let's stop. Let's look at it in terms of a man that is accused of a crime. They have accused him of a crime, right? And he's sitting in court as a defendant. I'm using those terms now. Now, let me say this as a clear case, as a clear statement, and I want you to write it down. These ones I'm saying, write it down, very important. Because of the way Paul described the law, the court case, or the court setting, what he was trying to say really is that every man here, one day your case will be called in court. Are you listening to what I'm saying? One day your case will be what? Called in court. For anything, they called Job's case. It wasn't just Job. Job was just a type of this, but they called Job's case in court. When you're on the sick bed and it seems like they're calling your case in court. When you're praying to God for wealth and there's a contract with your name and they're calling your case in court. When you're trying to do things that exceed your station, your case is being called in court. One day your case will be called in court. Every single person here. Right? Now, let's look at the natural court. And I want I want to use it to draw a spiritual parallel. Right? When someone is standing trial, there's a judge, which is God the Father. There's an advocate. There's an accuser, which is the devil. Right? And they are witnesses. Now, when the Bible says the others obtained a good report or witness, it means that through their faith, right? Through their faith, they were able to get someone to stand in the witness box for them. Listen, through their faith, there was someone to stand in the witness box for them. Right? Now, there are two types of witnesses that are agreed or allowed in court, generally. If you check the extant laws of Nigeria and most countries, two types of witnesses are allowed, and I would draw them parallel. Please just follow me. Follow me over these next 2 weeks. The first one is an eyewitness. The second one is an expert witness, right? The first one is an eyewitness. That means the person saw, and the second one is an expert witness. Now, an eyewitness is someone that witnessed whatever happened, and the person will come to court, either bearing witness or false witness even, right? And usually when there's an eyewitness, the case is short, right? So they say, oh, this person killed somebody, and then there's an eyewitness, and then the eyewitness says, I saw him do it, and usually the case is finished, right? Now, when your case is called in court for anything, you must learn how to be an eyewitness, and that's where your confessions come in. And these guys understand it. That's why they don't mess with their words, right? Because winning that case is about two things: sharing the promises that have been promised. So when someone says, do you have faith? And he doesn't have a word or something, an anchor, and I say, you don't have it. Because if you had it, it will produce, right? Now, the second one is interesting. It's an expert witness. An expert witness is someone who has studied himself to a point where he's trusted by a society, maybe as a professor or something, to testify in court, right, on any matter. So let's imagine that this professor of ballistics is an expert witness. Please don't get confused. I'm just trying to lay the foundation. Let's imagine that this guy is a professor of ballistics and is an expert witness, and they call him to testify in a gunshot case. And he says, according to the ballistics report, I've looked at it, this gun could have only been shot by a southpaw, which is a left-handed person, like Ehud, a left-handed person. And the defendant is right-handed. Do you know that the defendant can be released, right, on the strength of that testimony? If there's no further evidence against him, the defendant can be released on the strength of the testimony that they said this gun could have not been shot by a right-handed person. That's an expert witness. Now, let me break it down the way it works. I'll use some Bible characters, and then I'll bring it back to the real life so you understand. Blind Bartimaeus was an expert witness for himself. When the disciples were shouting, Jesus was asking them, who do you say I am? This one said, you are Elias, you are this, you are that. Blind Bartimaeus said, you are the son of David. So he shouted, son of David. Jesus said, does this guy know what he's talking about? He shouted, son of David again. What I'm saying is that there's something around you don't know. So he shouted, son of David again. Jesus said they should call him. As if to say, oh God, do you know what you are saying? The question is, how did he know that Jesus was the Son of David? Why did he throw away his shirt when Jesus asked them to call him? His shirt was his meal ticket. Why did he throw it away? He threw it away because he was telling Jesus, he was communicating something. He said, we will die here. If you don't heal me, I'm not good. There's nothing to go back to, right? The Syrophoenician woman was an expert witness for her daughter. She had a conversation. The centurion was an expert witness for his servant. What am I saying? And why am I saying taking it through this route? If you have 5 close friends, there's one time PF said something to me, I'm sure he doesn't remember. I will never forget myself. He said, this was years ago. Think on 20 million back, which means if something that needs 20 million happens now, we'll all be looking. I just laughed. But I registered it inside me that, Kai, if all your friends, there's no expert witness among you that can stand for each other on the day of trouble, then there's a problem in you, in your soul, in how you select and how you manage relationships. Do you hear what I'm saying? Because wealth is not just in money, it's in networks. There's a problem with you. Even among you, none of your friends can stand. The guy was on the bed and his friends broke the ceiling of Jesus and put him down inside. Those are expert witnesses. Let me also say this. Let me also say this also to church people that go to church. If you go to church and you are happy that you're in a big church, right? And your pastor cannot stand as an expert witness for you, you are deceiving yourself. Leave that church. Do you hear what I'm saying? Leave there. Some people just want, I'm in a big church, it makes you feel good. You are deceiving yourself. On the day of trouble, you cannot stand as an expert witness. Spiritually and physically, you are deceiving yourself. Leave there. So this thing is about the witness, whether you will come out of it or not. And I'll link it all, but I just want to lay the foundation today. So let's look at Abel. He said Abel offered up a more excellent sacrifice than Cain. Why? I said it last time, that sacrifice is the love language of spirits, right? He offered up a more excellent sacrifice than Cain. Let's even break it down to what you want in your life. Peter Obi is going against a man that is a professional Etutu man, and he thinks he can win presidency, and people are shouting about what is fair, and pastors are shouting he can never rule us. Ask PF and I now, we were just laughing throughout the whole process. He said, based on the principle of wealth, of inheritance, this man will win. There's nothing anybody can do, because sacrifices have been made over decades. Do you hear what I'm saying? Sacrifices have been made over decades. And a man that never extended himself to anybody, as much as this other man thinks that he can win, because you think it's not fair, because you are waiting for what is fair, you are deceiving yourself. You are deceiving yourself. You are deluded. Listen to it. He said, by faith, Abel offered up a more excellent sacrifice than Cain. The next verse, or the next place says, by which means through that sacrifice, he received a witness, right? So he received a witness to testify for him when his case was called in court. Do you know who the witness he received was? Guess. The next part says God testifying, which means that through the life of sacrifice, God left the seat of the judge and entered the witness box for Abel. And he testified for him. You're playing with dangerous men. Look, the wealth of the wicked that you're praying for, you're not ready. In fact, in the story, you are the wicked. You don't know. Go and read the parable of the talents. He said he gave one servant 5. The servant reproduced it. He gave one 2. That one reproduced it. He gave one, that one buried it. When he came to him, he said, Master, I know that you are someone that doesn't like to reap where they sow. The master looked at him and said, oh, wicked servant. The definition of wickedness is that you buried the talent and you didn't do anything with it. So when you are praying that God should transfer the wealth of the wicked, you better make sure that you are not the wicked in the story. Because these wicked men that you are saying wicked men, they have brought men up. They have reproduced themselves in men. They understand that people are nature's priority. But you are saying, come to our church. It's our something. Come to our church. You are saying Pastor Godman should not take it. He should just be ministering to you in church. The palliative that he can do that will increase his influence and that will help him touch more people in Lagos. He should not take it. He should just remain a pastor and preach to our church. You don't know that you and the devil, you are preaching the same message. But you think that it's the wealth of the wicked. You are the wicked. I want to turn that theology upside down to understand that there are things that men are doing on the earth that put God in the witness stand. That God has to testify for them. And you're here, you're playing small. Your mind is small, your soul is small, you know, everything about you is small because your heart is small. And if your heart does not grow into this learning, now what have I stressed today? I've stressed that you must go and learn and understand the law. Go and read. Understand the law. Understand the law of the jungle. Understand how it works. Understand what needs to be done. The centurion did not come and say, God, Jesus, by the mercy. No, those guys access things that were not their own. And they access things that were not for them just by understanding the law. This is the law. Right? Go back and understand it. Go back and understand it. I'm not talking about the kingdom yet. I'm just talking about the law of creation, the law of seed time and harvest time, the law that drives things on the earth. Understand it. That one, in the beginning, God created the earth, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the earth. So that the first thing is that sound creates light. The first thing, he said, God said, let there be light, and there was light. So the first thing is that sound creates light, which means a quiet man is a broke man. Do you hear what I'm saying? A quiet man is a broke man. Understand that law. Understand the law that light determines time. Understand that the end game for wealth is time. So we get 24 hours. All of us get 24 hours, right? How we use those 24 hours determines whether we'll be poor or not. That if I have light and I bring light in any intensity, I can collapse 1 hour into 1 minute. Give you a small example so you are not lost. If I automate my processes in my business and I leverage people and I leverage my relationships, I don't have to do everything myself. And I'm ready to pay people well. I don't have to do everything myself. I can make more. So God showed me as I was entering 2024, he said, I've elevated you. You have to now start acting like it, right? You have to start acting like it. So I have a new business model. I put project managers on projects and I pay them very well. And when I say very well, I paid them very, very well. Initially, when I started that model, I was drinking Gary. I mean, you're paying one project manager 1.8 million naira. How much are you making? But I was drinking Gary, but it was a model. Paid them very well so that my project manager can be a bank manager. I pay like banks in my company. Do you hear what I'm saying? I pay like banks in my company. I drank the Gary, but now the Gary is and the water are now. How did we get there? We got there because I realized that if I'm working with my blood, I can only be on one side, at least until I master omnipresence. I can only be on one side at the same time and get so much, right? If I have 10 people on one side on retainers, I have much more. That's my model. Though it's not a model you need to copy. Go and learn your own model. So right now, we have project managers on several sites. You know all I do? I just travel around the world, going to visit them. Okay, I will talk to them for 1 hour, don't worry. And because I understand that I can never improve my circumstances, and write this down, without improving the circumstances of those around me. So I have to be cured of selfishness first of all. Cured! That if I want to improve my circumstances, I must improve the circumstance. You know, some of you, when you look at the money, how can I pay someone this? There's something inside you that is biting you. It's an ethanoic enzyme. Ethanoic enzyme. It's anger. You're angry that you're paying that much out because your soul cannot get over the fact that you're paying that much out to somebody every month. How will you grow if your soul cannot get over the fact that you're paying someone that much? You will never grow. You will never grow. So I have now 3 or 4 of those people that I'm paying that much. When I sit down and I look at, I was showing someone, I said, see my wage bill. I say, Fisayo, you want to kill yourself? No. I'm growing into that wage bill. I'm growing into it. The revenue to support the wage bill has come. So that's why I'm showing you the law, that light. So I know that I have only 24 hours. In order to collapse those 24 hours into meaningful time, I leverage the energy of others. I leverage my relationships, right? I'm always hiring. You're a good project manager. Come and work for me. I leverage the energy of others. I leverage my relationships, right? Always, always. Why? Because all I have on my own is 24 hours. By the time I add my 5 project managers, we have over 100 hours. We have 120, 25 hours. You hear what I'm saying? I leverage it. So if you understand what Genesis 1 was saying, that light determines time. You need to learn the light that will determine how long you spend in a phase of your life, which means that time is a servant of light. But some of you, the truth of the matter is that you are still a servant of time. And as long as you stay a servant of time, you are not going to make this wealth. Time is a servant of light. So bring light in the intensity where it can collapse time for you. So for instance, let's imagine that PF does something and he charges $100,000 a day, right? If PF can grow his team to the point where they can do it, and there are 20 of them charging $100,000, he's making $2 million a day. If PF decides that he's not coaching anybody and he keeps doing it on his own, he's making $100,000 a day. Light collapses time. So there are 4 things you need, and I'll talk about these 4 things more next week as I close, to create wealth. First of all is love. We talked about that last week. The second is sound. I'll talk about the sound vibrations and what it means. The third is light, right? And the fourth is time. 4 tools for wealth creation: love, sound, light, and time. And I'll tell you what those things mean, right? I'll tell you what those things mean and how you can deploy those things in normal knowledge, in spiritual knowledge, and in practical knowledge. I believe that there are some questions. I want to stop here and take a few questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Fisayo. Please, if you have a question, kindly, you can put up your hand or you can put a question in the chat box. Thank you, Fisayo. I thought, yesterday I ran 4 sessions, and so someone saw me massaging my head. I taught a class yesterday morning, 7 to 9 a.m. And I just put in the group, I said, I hope you guys understand better what I taught yesterday, because you just captured what I was saying to them yesterday. And I think that I mean, I put something on Facebook this morning. I said, you need to be careful who you listen to because it's now a free for all.
Yes.
People are saying crazy things that doesn't make sense.
Nonsense.
That the greatest carriers of truth are the greatest carriers of error.
Yes.
And there are people with old truth who are now pushing errors and people are following. Now, I want to ask a question, Fisayo, and it might be a brutal answer you're going to give. What would be your counsel for people who are plugged into what has become like their nicotine or like their drug or like their cocaine? They are not seeing result. It's not working, but they are plugged in nevertheless. What do you think how do you think those people can break free from those shackles that have held them bound over the years? That's my first question.
Thank you, sir. This is a very deep question, and I want to answer it deliberately from the angle of the fact that as human beings, we are naturally, we just want to coast and keep doing what we are doing. Naturally. You know? We just want to coast. Which means very few people would apply a different pressure to the way they are going to achieve better results. Very few people in this life. Right? Which is why all we like sheep have gone astray. I said it, I answered this question during my talk. I said, or let me answer it this way. If you are plugged into a system, okay, this way. I'll borrow one of the Pastor Selman's, Apostle Selman's way of saying that. If there are 5 of you and you think that if you have 4 friends and they're all stupid, you didn't count well. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you have 5 friends and you have determined that all your 4 friends, you determined that there are 4 fools there, you didn't count well, you are the 5th fool. Right? Essentially, this is it. Get up and run for your life. You're not running for, get up and run for your life. It's not, I see people majoring on minor things, putting their energy on things that don't work. And if you have not grown in a long time, and grow by evidence of results in your life, and they've told you that the reason you haven't grown is that you're in a wilderness experience, get up and run for your life. Go and learn and find somewhere that you can learn. Take time out and study. Don't just study the Bible, and I'm being very serious. Some of the things I'm telling you is from study of anthropology, right? How man moved from the middle of the food chain to top of the food chain through the discovery of fire, which is to say that light will move you from the middle to the top, right? Study anthropology, study history. You will know that there's something that's not right about the way you're going about things. And once you know, then the next thing you need is courage. And that's what a lot of people are lacking.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if I speak freely here, it will be guinea, but there are many issues that we've discussed, PF and I, that you need to be a person that lives by principle and draw the line in the sand. Just draw the line. Just draw the line. Look, men are doing things. Men are moving things. And if you stay in a place that keeps you small, then you're going to be small and you never realize what is happening, right? You need to be aligned. And this alignment is required. And once this alignment comes to you, you move to 0. And when there's a paradigm shift, everybody goes to 0. And that paradigm is shifting in the economy. I'll give you an example so that I can link this to. There's a paradigm shift to exports now, right? If you look around, everybody has to show they're working, from governor, everybody. Everybody is looking for ways to export. If you have the energy, right, start looking to exporting something. I showed you Julius Berger's cashew. Yes, I brought it deliberately so that you will not say that I did not show you. Julius Berger Tamo, don't share bridge, don't share titi. Contracts have dried up, and the boys have looked back. You know, Julius Berger, nobody knows them in Germany. They're not in the top 10 in Germany. So they've looked back and said, we can't go back home. So what's the way forward? There has to be a we die here attitude to moving forward. That we die here. So when they did this, they showed me, the cashew is nice. I can share it. Anybody that wants, it's nice. They want to start doing flavors now. Can you imagine? So you see cashew honey flavor. Where did they find it? Made in Nigeria, but made by a white man, because God only speaks to thinking people.
Wow.
So you can only receive answers at the level at which you are thinking and asking questions. And let me tell you also this, so you don't think that we're not spiritual people. And that's why sometimes I bring the Bible, because I don't want you to think we're not spiritual people. Thinking is a prerequisite for faith.
Yeah.
There's a thinking element that is required for faith to happen. In fact, without the mind, faith cannot happen. You cannot have faith. So this idea that faith means you throw away your sense is a lie from the pit of hell. It just means you don't depend on your sense, right? That's what faith means, but thinking is required. I'll show you. How did the woman with the issue of blood know that if I touch the hem of his garment, I'll be healed? How? There's a thinking portion of it. The Bible said in Leviticus, and if you now read Leviticus, you will understand that the Bible had said anybody that touches someone who is on a period or who is shedding blood gets uncleanness is transferred to that person. That's what the Bible said, Abi. That if you touch a woman who is on a period, uncleanness is transferred to you, and they have to take you and wash you outside the camp, blah, 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 blah. So the woman reckoned that if she could transfer uncleanness to people, Jesus could transfer cleanliness to her. That's how that's how a miracle happened. So she touched the hem of his garment to say, if I can transfer uncleanness to people, you can transfer cleanliness to me. The centurion thought, right? The centurion thought, if I can send soldiers around and they can go around, then you, right, you have that authority over sickness. You can send sickness around. And he said to Jesus, he said, speak the word only. He put the word only there, meaning speak the word, but don't add your presence to it. You don't need to come. Because when I send a soldier somewhere, I don't need to follow him. So he said, speak the word only. Peter was there. Jesus had to come to the house of Peter to touch his mother-in-law, right? But the centurion, it belongs to the highest bidder. It's not about proximity or I go to church or I'm a bishop. It belongs to the highest bidder. The centurion placed a bid to say, look, when I send a soldier somewhere, I don't need to follow him. Therefore, you don't need to follow your word. Just speak the word only. Right? The Syrophoenician woman knew. What are you talking about? You're talking about bread and children's bread? She said it is what is inside the bread that is inside the crumbs. That you are so great. She was hyping him. You are so great that your crumbs is enough to solve this matter. You see that some thinking was required. Some thinking was required. And so we have to build a generation that's thinking about these things. You have to think. So he said, while Peter yet thought, the Holy Ghost spoke to him. As you are thinking, the Holy Ghost will now start speaking to you. And you now start, so that's how it is. Okay. So get up. My answer to Peter's question, get up, run for your life. You're not stuck or tied to your daddy or whatever you call him. Run.
Thank you very much, Fisayo. Godswill is asking a question, and I agree with you. That courage issue, it's the fact that people have been brainwashed never to live their lives, but to live other people's lives. And so when you hear things like, this is where God has planted you, if you uproot yourself from here, you can never make it. It's not true.
But they told me the same thing. They told Nathaniel Bassey the same thing when we were leaving City of David.
They even told me the same thing.
They said we were throwing away our life, that we will never show up on the radar again. I said God will punish the radar. I said God punish the radar.
It was the same thing they told me. They said nobody will hear about me because I was leaving a church way back. But I told them, I said, you will not just hear about me. So the day I was on CNN, all of them were watching. After I left CNN, I called them. No, they called me. They said, we saw you on CNN. I said, are you just saying it? But I told you many years ago that you're on CNN, right? Godswill is asking, it's really sad. It was really sad on the position of some Christians regarding the appointment of a pastor. These same Christians have sat under the pastors for God knows how long. Is it a teacher problem or a student problem? That is, I think, the final question.
Is it Uncle Will that is asking me a question? I'm not answering any question, my Uncle Will.
It's Godswill.
Uncle Will, ask me this question man to man. Don't come from the corners. Look, we've created a generation that we want, and we don't like the reflection of what we've seen. When I saw that thing, I was heartbroken. If I were him, I would reject it. I was heartbroken. Now, why would we take that sort of position? One is selfishness, right? The first thing is selfishness. And that selfishness makes us think that we are better than people who are walking according to the law. Solomon describes something, I don't know if we understand. As Africans, we should understand it. He said, I've seen injustices on the earth where princes are walking and servants are, he described this thing. Do you know what he was describing? He was describing this process where wicked men can thrive if we allow them. Do you understand? Wicked men can thrive if we allow them. It's possible. What we call wicked men, and we see it already. So now, when we say taking, meanwhile, in PF, they can do a program in their church called Taking Territories. Without even knowing what taking territories means. I said it that if you are not at the table, you are on the menu.
Yep.
Someone said that is a lie. Most of them they will reject it. They're pretending. But then, some people here that are saying I would have rejected. Maybe that person self would not have rejected. So it's very important. I think it's a teacher problem that has become the student problem. Which is to say that if you don't teach the right, what you focus is what will grow. If you don't teach people the right things, they will never ever grow into. So I was talking to my mom this morning, and I was saying that these things need to be taught. When someone comes to me and says, I have faith, half of the time I say, you don't have faith. I'll give you an example, hypothetical. Someone has a medical issue that they're praying to God for healing, right? You hear this, so they get to the hospital and everybody's okay at this point. And then they now say, okay, there's this new cutting edge surgery that we're going to do for her. Everybody's okay with medical treatment, and they said the surgery is $50,000. Right? Then everybody says, God can heal her without the surgery. Now, when you say God can heal her without the surgery, did you suddenly have faith that God can heal her without surgery? Or the money threatened you and broke your mind. So I said, God cannot raise the money, but he can heal her without the surgery. Let me tell you this. The creative of how God does a miracle, whether creative or not, depends on the sovereignty of God. God might want to break poverty in your family by showing you that he has resources within you that can raise that money. And you have said no. Heal her without the surgery. Just say the truth. Say, God, this money is more than my mind can take. Take control. That's a better thing to say than say, heal her without the surgery. Do you understand what I'm saying? You say, we are having faith. You are not having faith. You are having fear. And the fear of money is the worst kind. Is the most basic kind of fear. Right? Okay, sir.
Thank you very much, Fisayo. I think we'll continue this next week so that, Koji says, thank you, sir. I hear you. What they said is that they have been programmed by these pastors to think. Now they are complaining about this thought. We really need to scrap and start afresh, as what has been taught all these years is not true. Overhype of leaders at play. I think I agree with you, and I think Fisayo agrees as well. A lot of things have been taught wrongly, but because of our ignorance, we consume them. Now, as we started growing, some of them have not grown past what they used to teach, and then it suddenly looks like, what are you guys? What are you saying? I mean, how dare you tell me to go and touch one altar? You just touch the altar. What is going to happen, right? And I'm glad. I mean, like I said to every parent, that God finally sent a generation that questions everything we've been taught. That's Generation Z and Alpha. They are not going to just lie low. They will drag you like Tiger Generator, those guys don't. And they are not afraid of touch number. Of course, we need to strike a balance where we now need to teach them, but then everybody should go back and learn to study, So thank you very much, Fisayo. We'll continue this next week. God bless you, sir, for another incisive. And what you said about earning, I've not up my fees in maybe 6 years when I coach people, and just this week, I just said to myself, okay, it's time to take it up. And I shot it up in a way that was very, very crazy, right? And so my website designer, who was adjusting it, suddenly looked at me and he was like, PF, is this not too much? I said, no, it's not too much. I said, it's reflecting the audience I'm dealing with now. And it was like, so I told him, I said, my mantra has always been to collect money from the rich to serve the poor, and say, so I said, it's because I can earn it. So, and it was like, how did you? I said, because the sound I've been listening to actually spoke to me about what I need to do. Because when you now are in the midst of people who tell you that a session with them is $40,000 US, 1 hour, right? And you're looking at the content and you're like, what kind of content is this one? Then
just have courage. You don't have courage.
Suddenly realize that, and that's what I say to people, that a nation and the people you hang around with can actually shrink your capacity and you wouldn't know. So look at many of our people who relocated to America. Now, I had a meeting with them and I was asking them, I said, based on the rent you guys are paying, if you convert it, where do you think you should actually be living in Nigeria? And all of them said Banana Island.
Banana.
I said, so it meant that when you were in Nigeria, you had capacity for banana.
Yes.
But you refused. Your mind couldn't take it because you felt you were poor. And so you went to settle for some funny places and blah, 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 blah. I said, so it took you leaving Nigeria to actually see your true capacity, because some of people are paying their annual rent in Nigeria is what they pay monthly. So I even pay more than that, right?
Yeah.
And so it's association, family. As I mentioned, family. Don't grieve for yeme kind of people and go and sit where they can't challenge your thoughts, they can't challenge your thought process, where they're just talking about pedestrian things that will not move your life forward. Take a decision with your life and move in the direction of where you need to go. Yeah.
Sometimes you don't have to change what you are doing. Sometimes you just need to change who you are doing it for.
You are doing it for. Thank you very much, FO. God bless you. Okay,
Yes,
Angie.
thank you.